Another part of building a roster is being able to record unavailable time for staff. So we've already been through the section regarding issuing shifts manually and through the auto roster, but to actually manage the staff's unavailable time is done in a very similar way. So we have a partially built roster here. Let's presume we need to record someone's unavailable time. So we can do that by picking the correct date. So in this case, I'm just going to use the 31st of October 16 and this person here. If I right click that particular date, I'm presented with an option in this list called Add Unavailability. Now, unavailability covers every possible reason that a person may be off. So if we use the group drop-down box, it covers everything from annual leave, other leave, parenting, sickness, study leave, unknown, and finally a working day, which will be used for situations where a person is working but not on the unit. To pick, for example, annual leave, I would just use the annual leave box and then pick the sub-reason. So in this case, it could be annual leave or bank holiday. In the system, everyone's bank holiday entitlement is included within their annual leave entitlement. So again, you get the option to use that by picking one of the options. Now, as a caveat to that, they both come from the same pot, so it's not absolutely essential. It's illustrative. However, it's easier to see what's going on if you pick the right reason. So in this case, I'm just going to pick annual leave. Because we're adding it in the management system, the state across on the right-hand side is always approved first. But you do have the ability to change the state just by cancelling it, for example, or changing it to a request on behalf of a staff member. We have the option of picking the dates and the times of the leave. The times in this instance I'm going to leave alone because they covers full days. These are just the default times, 7 till 23:59. However, I am going to extend the end date. So rather than just the one day, I can either pick the day that I want the leave to end. So if I pick Friday, it changes the duration to 5 days. And then down at the bottom here, it shows you how many hours the system has assigned that person for that for each of those 5 days. We can actually manually override this as well, for example. So for argument's sake, if we wanted to, we could change this to 8 hours and perhaps we'd change the day before to 7. But overall, it still adds up to 37.5 hours. The changing of the times is more useful for partial weeks. For example, if they're doing shifts at the beginning of the week and taking the remainder of the week off, you may want to tweak some of the times just to make sure that their contracted hours balance at the end. If I press OK on this now, so we've changed everything we need to, that week of leave should now be placed on the roster for us. Just here. So we now have an annual leave spell that's blocked off the whole week and they can't now be issued shifts on that day. We do have another reason to record unavailability though. So for example, if someone already had shifts issued but they then called in sick for when they were due to work, we can record that in the same way. So if we just pick on this person here and just click the shift, so for argument's sake, let's say we're on the 21st of October 16 and this person was on the late, but they've called up in the morning to state that they're ill and they're not coming in. So to record that, again, I can just right-click that shift or the day and click Add Unavailability. Again, it presents as this window. So the group this time I'm going to use as sickness and then the reason. Now the reason should correspond to the codes that we used to write on the back of timesheets, but you would just pick the most appropriate one or the closest one to the reason as to why they may be off. I always pick the top one just for demonstration purposes. So if we pick on asthma, and again, it's just for this one day as we know about at the moment. It's just the Monday that they were due to work, that late shift. So I'm going to block off the whole day, the sickness, so I'll leave everything alone. Don't need to change the start, end, or the times. It's automatically approved because again, we're in the management system. We're making this change, so it presumes that we want to approve it straight away. Duration is 1 day, and it automatically picks up the number of hours that they were due to work. So if that late had been any longer or shorter, this would have been automatically adjusted to the correct times because it presumes that you've already planned that week, so it must match whatever they were due to work. If I now press OK, two things will happen. First and foremost, the sickness will of course go on the roster, but secondly, it will automatically cancel the late shift and turn it purple. So there we go. We have sickness spell on the 1 day now. That's the active activity, if you like. And the late, which was the old activity, has now been cancelled and it's changed to purple. Now, presumably we got to the next day and that same person called up to state that actually they weren't coming in again. Rather than add a new sickness, we want to change the original one. So all we'd need to do is right-click the original sickness and edit the unavailability rather than add a new one. So edit unavailability. The first reason has now been greyed out. We can no longer change that anymore, although we could cancel it if it was a complete mistake. But we can't physically change this anymore. We could change the reason if we have more information now, but realistically what we're going to be doing is just extending the dates. So I'm just going to pick on the end date and pick the 25th and extend it to 2 days. Again, it's adopted the number of hours that they were due to work on the Tuesday as well, because they had a shift just here. And it's now totals of 15 hours. So if I press save, the same thing should happen. The late should be cancelled and changed to purple, but the sickness will now be extended to span 2 days rather than 1. There we go. And again, on the Wednesday, presumably called up sick and said they'd been signed off for the rest of the week now, we could deal with that as well, just in the same manner. So we'd right-click, edit unavailability, and we can either just push up the days using the counter, or we can just pick the end date. So we do the end of the week and cordon off the weekend as well. Again, you'll notice that it goes gold with the information that we're changing. So these are already changed, so they're black, they're unaffected. But the gold ones are the new information that we've just added to that sickness. So this person was only due to work Wednesday and Thursday, and then the remainder of the week they're actually off. So exactly here we've got 7:30 and 7:30, which is exactly what they were due to work, and then the remainder of the week is set to 0, and that combines to a total of 30 hours, which is exactly what they were planned for that week, as they only had 4 shifts that week. We can leave these alone for now, although you may want to change, because they're now medically certified, you may want to use the drop-down box to select medically certified. We can now press save, and that will extend the sickness for the whole week and cancel the remaining shifts. Now if we just go back into the sickness, so I'm just going to right click and edit unavailability again. Presuming we're on the next week now, we can use some of these other features. So for example, we could tick when we've completed a return to work interview, or we could tick if we've referred them to occupational health because the sickness reason was a reoccurring sickness reason. So you can use this information for yourselves just to ensure that we're recording the right information and that other people can also see that these have been completed. So if we press save on that now, it'll remain the same, but we've just ticked these options. So that's adding an unavailability, and that counts for every unavailability. So just to go through some of the other reasons for unavailable time, if I click on, for example, other leave, this will cover every possible other leave that you could be away that's not sickness or annual leave. So this covers things like authorised absence paid, and again it asks you to add notes, which I can show you how to do shortly. Unauthorised absence unpaid, authorised absence unpaid, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of reasons in here as to why you may be off on other leave but it not come out of your sickness or annual leave. So we have compassionate leave, non-immediate family, which should state in brackets unpaid, and then we also have another one for immediate family and paid, emergency leave and time off for dependents, and everything from jury service, both paid and unpaid, to taking a bit of time owing back. Time owing we'll come on to later, because that works differently to every other unavailability. Parenting, for example, we have maternity, everything from maternity to adoption leave. You just pick the most appropriate one. We have study leave, and we do have most study leave courses specified in here, but there is another other section as well if it's not listed. Just use that option here. We have unknown, which should only really be used for AWOL. And then finally, working day, which does cover everything from manager's away day to office day to management time. Keeping in touch day, which is also available in working day. And every other various option that we have here available to you. Just pick the most appropriate one and record that time as unavailable, that means that that person will no longer be part of your numbers and declared as working. We're accounting for their working time, but they're working somewhere else.